Evening, folks, and welcome to the Rangers Journal podcast. I'm your host, Scott Mackay, and I'm delighted to be joined by a couple of special guests tonight, and David Pollock from A Gallant Few and William from RFC Youth Updates in relation to Robbie Fraser getting some minutes, Cole McKinnon getting some minutes from a bench, and Leon King starting. Rangers recovered from a 2-goal deficit last night. He beat Dundee 5-2, and it was a very Jekyll and Hyde performance, so let's get right into it. Dean, how are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Scott, how are you getting on, mate?
Aye, not bad at all. Davey, thanks for coming on yet again, mate. How are you doing?
I'm fine, yes. Obviously, up in the club deck last night, it was a game of two halves. It was a strange game, but I think we ultimately, in the second half, once we got our noses in front, I mean, I'm not convinced that Todd Cantwell meant that, by the way. Hey, if he says he does, then I'll take it. But no, we got there eventually. 5-2. I mean, when was it? We haven't scored 5 too many times at Ibrox this season, so we'll go for that.
Aye, that's it. William, how are you getting on, pal?
Aye, good, mate. I'm trying to play Football Manager on one side and watch the Man United Newcastle game on the other, so it's a really good night, to be honest.
Fair dues. Fair enough for that. I've got a wee FM game on the go myself. I resigned for Rangers on foot by accident. I done it by accident, and then I ended up in some mob in Serbia. And then now I'm Motherwell manager. I'm trying to rebuild my way back up to Rangers again. It's torture, man.
I know it's weird. Like I first started playing it about 15 years ago, and I think I've never bought it every single year. And it's weird because even though nothing really changes, like I start the new game like it's something exciting, and even a 41-year-old guy still enjoys playing it. It's strange.
Aye, it's brilliant. It's a good game. Right, so let's get right into it, will we? So Rangers set up I think there was 5 changes in the lineup last night. Nico Raskin come back in. Leon King started at centre back. There was various. Todd Cantwell come back in for Tom Lawrence. Dujon Sterling dropped out. Ross McCausland started. Very indifferent game. We're just going to shoot straight up until probably the end of the. So Dundee are 2-0 up. We'll just kind of start fair because I don't really see a point in speaking about the goals conceded. I think there's been enough negativity spread about the last week, especially for myself. But Ross McCausland got his back into the game just before half-time, Dean.
Mm-hmm. Aye. A very, very good goal. I mean, watched that again before I came on, and I know it's a dead rubber game. I think you put that in the chat last night, Scott, which is very accurate. But I mean, his desire to score that goal was quite refreshing to see. He seemed to have that about him the whole game, and an attacking sense, defensively as well. Albeit it was maybe the negativity there for the goals, but definitely great to see him bursting a gut to score that goal. It wasn't an easy goal to score, and beating like 2 defenders to the ball, and he's like, and I mean it's nice to be possible. A midget in comparison to the guys that he beat to get the ball, So really, really good to see him score a goal like that, and the confidence that it's given him.
Hey, Davey, I think Ross McCausland's kind of progress recently, I would say it's stalled. You know how when youth players come in, they'll have like a big high, and then they'll kind of plateau for a wee while, and then they'll sort of find a level after that. What did you make of him last night? I thought it was one of his better games.
I thought just the commitment, the energy that he put into it, he deserved the goal. The boy just he gives his all, and that's all I can ask. That's what I expect of these boys, And I think they all made a contribution last night, but certainly Ross McCausland, just the commitment he put into it, determined it, and it made such a difference, from going in 2-1 down rather than 2-0 down, because I think a bit different at half time. But well done, Ross, because I think that just gave us that wee bit of belief. I think obviously from 2-0 down to win any game, you're doing quite well against anyone. So that goal gave us the lifeline that we needed, the wee injection of belief before the halftime team talk, I think. And from what Big Phil says, that he had some angry words to give them at halftime, which So maybe that's cushioned the blow for them with the fact that we got the first one back. So, no, but well done, Ross McCausland. That I thought Ross McCausland did well overall. They just the energy, the commitment that the boy gives you is faultless.
Aye, definitely. William at half time, well, at full time, sorry, come on, says kind of about the first half. He says, I was angry because they didn't reward themselves. I was very angry. We had good intentions with the ball and not enough without. We need to stand up and show more. We played good offensive, aggressive football in the second half. It's a big lesson to take out of that and continue working on that in the next 10 days. We need to be more consistent next season. That aggression has to be there all the time, not just when I'm angry.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting in the first half, the second half, the fullbacks were really playing like sort of almost like central midfielders at times, which was making a lot of space for Ross to get up and down that side of the pitch as well. It's one of those strange things. When you see the starting lineup, we knew it was going to be a lot of changes. So you felt like how Dundee play, they're going to be physical, they're going to get balls into the box, they're going to try to be as direct as they can at times. And we do look vulnerable for that. So whether that goal from Ross made such a big impact at half-time, or whether it was what the manager had to say, or maybe it was the fact that the fans always kind of let the players know they weren't happy either, which I think is a big thing as well, because I know people seen last night as a bit of a dead rubber and it doesn't really matter, but it does. Because I think any time you play at Ibrox, I think as a support we should expect a good performance. And we probably only get 45 minutes of that last night, and that was in the second half. Thought we moved the ball a bit quicker, thought we had a bit more energy. I thought we took some more chances, which I can't understand. See, when we are playing at home, we've got to be the aggressor. We've got to try things that maybe you wouldn't try away from home in some games. But that's why getting Cantwell on the ball's huge. It's a terrific cross from him for Dessers. The third one, obviously, it's open to debate. I'm sure Cantwell will tell everybody that he meant it. And then, yet again, the fourth and fifth goals come from actually really good play. And I don't even know if Dundee had a shot in the second half because of how much control we had. And it kind of goes to show that, I think we've said that a few times this season, kind of privately to people at the games and stuff like that. If this team could actually play consistently well for 60, 70, 80 minutes, we would be a far better team, but we do seem incapable of doing that. And whether that's just the players in terms of how the manager wants to play, or if there's other reasons behind it. Last night, it's weird. How can you go from playing like that in the first half to playing like that in the second? It just doesn't add up, to be honest.
Now, can I just come in there, please, Scott? Just on what you were saying there, William. The stats at half time were almost identical. I think it was both like 11 shots and maybe 4 or 5 on target at half time. So it just when I've read that for myself, I'm like, we should be dominating those stats at home, So it just showed you, it just exactly what you just said there, William. Exactly what you just said, that that just proof in the pudding that we can't play consistently like that for 60, 70 minutes. I mean, the first half we were getting beat 2-1 at home by Dundee. Come out the second half, and you're right. I don't think Dundee did have a shot. So there's obviously, there's a switch there with something, isn't there? It's quite obvious to see, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. I don't understand how we can be so off it for 45 minutes. And see, like, it shouldn't take the manager to have a rattle at them to get the reaction. That's the one thing I would be concerned about. As a team, I think last night's one of those games, okay, like, I get the fact we've got players out injured. I get the fact that there's a bit of a kind of down feeling after the defeat. But that's our home game. It's the last home game of the season in the league. Let's go out and put on a big performance. But in the first 45, you wouldn't have known that. In terms of the shots, the goalkeeper should have saved most of the shots that you had at him in the first half. We had 1 or 2 good chances. But the second half was just like night and day. It's crazy. It's in terms of the stats, that probably sums it up. We shouldn't be giving Dundee that many opportunities in 45 minutes, never mind 90. And that, to me, is why the manager's furious, and he's got every right to. And I think the fact we've heard from the manager a couple of times now that he's now openly admitted that there's going to be a big clear-out, that was the first time he's really openly spoke about that. Up until then, he's kind of tried to tread on water by try to say nice things. You know, these players are doing well. We're ticking over. Or blah blah blah. We'll wait until the end of the season. Obviously, now some of the conversations have been had, and some players have probably been told now they're no longer going to be part of the squad for next season.
Aye.
William, just quickly, see, staying on Ross McCausland before we come on to the second half.
Yeah.
How do you think he's done, like, settling into the first team? And do you think he's going to have like a more prominent role next season? Do you think he's going to be in the squad? Like, where do you think we're at with McCausland?
That's a good question, actually, to be honest. At the recent 18s game, we were actually kind of chatting about Ross and a few other guys that we maybe felt could have had more game time this year. Guys like Bailey Rice, Zach Lovelace, if he'd stayed fit. In terms of Ross, he kind of came in out of nowhere because of the amount of injuries we had. He's obviously took his chance. He scored in Europe, and it was a massive goal, obviously, in Europe. It helped us qualify for the knockout stages. I think it's fair to say it's been a bit up and down. I think he's had some good moments, and I think he's had other times where it's probably been a struggle for him. But yet again, if people look at stats, like you look at the goals that he scored, the fact that he's impacting games, I think he still probably needs to do more on his defensive work. But obviously that will come the more you play. And I think for Ross, unfortunately, he's maybe in a team that lacks a bit of leadership at times, and maybe there's not enough guys out in the pitch that are maybe helping him. I mean, I think sometimes it's easier to come into a team that's winning all the time, and when things are going well, and it's easy to drop in and out the team. Ross came in at a time where things weren't exactly going particularly well. You know, the previous manager had been sacked. There was an interim manager in charge, and then all of a sudden he got a bit of a run under the new manager, and then he got a new contract. But I do think we're always more critical of some of our own young players. And I think maybe Ross has kind of seen that. I think that's why, when I spoke to him kind of at a B-team game recently, I asked him, did he go into social media much these days? And they said no. And I can understand why, because everybody's got an opinion on players. And I think some of the stuff that's been spoken about Ross has been really harsh, if I'm totally honest. But, like, that's the world we live in now, and social media is an open platform for people to have an opinion on it.
Aye, definitely. Davey, I just want to come back to you quickly. See, we were talking just before we come on air about the kind of atmosphere in the ground and what happened at half time. You say you've seen a lot of supporters leaving. Would you? I know we're obviously down 2-1 at the time, but what's your thoughts on it? Like, what's your general opinion? Do you think that kind of sums up the mood around the club just now? Clement spent a lot of time building the synergy between the fans, the players, the club, getting a kind of connection back again. Do you think that's maybe wavering a wee bit?
It's certainly been diluted. There's no doubt about that. But I think the goal before half time, obviously kind of I took the edge off it. I think had it been 2-0, it was bad enough. But I think the 2-1 obviously thinks, we're back in this. So, but I think they got a gentle reminder that the first half performance just looked like an end of season dead rubber, as we spoke about, which is unacceptable for any Rangers player, any Rangers team. To go out there and give anything less than their absolute utmost. So they get. I know it's going to be variable across a season, but I think they got a wee reminder, just as they were leaving the pitch, that that's just not acceptable. Rangers against Dundee, we've turned up and most of us were still on the ground. But you're right. I mean, when the second goal went in, because I'm in Club Deck 3, so I've got a nice view of all the big stands in front of me. And when that ball goes in the net, quite a few people got up and left. And I thought, Jesus Christ, why did they bother? Why did they bother? Is it? I mean, that's entitlement for you, isn't it? We just turn up. As soon as Rangers go 2-0 down, I don't want to support them anymore. I'm better off without them, to be honest. But we stuck with it. We got the goal, and obviously, but the concern for Philip Clement, I think, is that he takes them back to the changing room at half time and then has to, as Williams just said, get the need for him to say that at half time, I think is unacceptable. That these people are professionals, they're out, they're taking the salary, and they should go out there and give their absolute utmost as professional sportsmen. Anything less than that's just not on. Albeit, we realise that the league is a goner. It was like a meaningless game in that sense, but they should be. It's our last league game, and we. I know the guys I was with, a couple of them had come down from down south, so because it's the last league game, so we all try and get together, make sure that we're all on the ground for that one, and so we made the effort, and I would expect the players to do the same. It was just like a strange team, obviously, with the number of changes that we had, was kind of giving out the signal, end of season stuff, but the first half performance is just not on, I'm afraid. Obviously, they picked it up, we got there in the end, but much better in the second half. And Todd Cantwell, I mean, what do you say about Todd? Why he has not played in the last two Old Firm games is simply beyond me. Why we would play Tom Lawrence on Saturday, and that from Saturday's game, when the team was announced, that was my take from it. Why are we playing Tom Lawrence and not Todd Cantwell in a game that we have to win? So that kind of sent out the wrong signal to me. That's kind of communicating we're out to try and maybe sneak one here. I want Rangers to go out and batter the fucking door down.
Aye, you're quite right. Dean, I think we've just summed it up. First half performance lacked a certain degree of professionalism, like Davey said. Second half, Rangers come out. Todd Cantwell come out. That fire in his belly again. Sticks in a wonderful cross for our favourite player, Cyril Dessers, to finish off. Cantwell, we'll touch quickly on. Give me a take on a goal, and Cantwell's celebration kind of has got me asking questions about whether or not he's going to be one of the players that's here or not next season. What's your take?
It's a bit of a tough one, isn't it? And there was an emotion there, wasn't there? He was very emotional in the celebration, and then after the game as well, it did look like he would, there was tears there. So a kind of wee message to the fans. I mean, if it was to play like that over the course of a season, then you would want him to stay, wouldn't you? And you would be sad to see him leave, because we need players that have got that wee bit something different, that wee bit something extra that we don't have. I guess that was Ryan Kent was always that player, wasn't he? That had that wee bit of panache, wee bit of, skill, touch on the ball. Could score the goals like that and stuff. So if Cantwell wants to stay, then by all means we need to get behind him, but he needs to play like that for all of the season and not just a few games here and there. So he's obviously got the ability. I think that goal last night it kind of reminds me of Ronaldinho against England 22 years ago in the World Cup, and he says that he meant it. I think it's going to be one of them, but I mean, he deserved the goal, fluke or not, because he did play really well in that second half, enough to give the manager a headache to want to keep him. And I guess his celebration and doing that and the thing, it is a hard one to think, but kissing the badge and stuff, it's all stuff that we like to see. So as a fan base, you want that from your players. So if he's here next season, then I'll definitely get behind him, but he needs to play like that, every game for me.
Aye, definitely. Well, I'm going to come back to you. Just staying on Todd Cantwell quickly. Seems to play I was doing a gantry for a Gallon Few when we went and played Hibs away at Easter Road in the Scottish Cup, I think. And it was a match that, no, it wasn't. I'm wrong here. Sorry, but we were playing Hibs at Easter Road anyway, and Cantwell kind of get sandwiched off of two players and flung into a billboard. He obviously got angered by that. He came out and he smashed one into the back of the net. Why is it got to take somebody to rile him up before you're seeing his true quality? Because when I'm saying Rangers were Jekyll and Hyde, Todd Cantwell was Jekyll and Hyde. He was careless in the first half. In the second half, he had a bit between his teeth.
Yeah, again, it's hard to know with Todd. There's no disputing the fact he's a quality footballer, but I think it's finding that level of consistency, and it's possible maybe just the players round about him at times, maybe not knowing where to be when he's looking for that pass or that bit of movement. I think it's a bit like sort of Diamande when I watch him. I think that Diamande is often a step ahead of some other players, and he's trying to do things that maybe the other players aren't reading. And I think Cantwell can be like that. And I don't think it's a slate at Dessers, but I think possibly having a striker with a little bit more movement would maybe help somebody like Cantwell, because I don't think Dessers is that kind of player when you watch him. I think until we see what the manager's going to put out in the park next year, it's hard to know what's going to happen with Todd. I would imagine, like, looking at how many games Todd's played overall since the manager's come in, I think he'll still be here. But clearly we'll need to wait for pre-season, because we've obviously got guys coming back for loan. We've obviously got a lot of players that are going to be moving on this summer. We've got loans that are finishing at the end of the season. So yeah, it's going to be... You get the feeling it's going to be a bigger overhaul than maybe what I first expected. And I guess only time will tell, but maybe that was the emotion of not getting a chance of playing against Celtic as well. Well, maybe a bit of frustration from him. Obviously, when you get down to 10 men there as well, the chances of him coming on lessen and lessen and lessen as well. So maybe it's a bit of frustration. Maybe it was a bit of anger. Maybe the manager said something to him at half time, and that's what's got him going. I mean, who knows? Only Todd Cantwell can answer that question, but at times in that second half, I thought he was excellent. Some of his movement, the touch, was absolutely top drawer. And the way that he drops into the little pockets of space to pick up the ball, we don't really have another player that does that. And I think to lose him would be a blow. But if the manager feels like there's somebody out there who could replace him and we can cash in on Todd, then I think as a support, you just have to accept that the manager's got his opinion, and that's really the main one that matters, isn't it?
Aye, definitely, mate. Everybody that's tuned in, thank you for tuning in. Hit a like, hit the subscribe button. Help us grow the channel. Davey, there's a lot of comments in the chat just now about Yanis Hadji. Now we've watched Todd Cantwell and Tom Lawrence in a 10 role most of the season. If the 10 role is going to be the same, do you think Hadji's potentially got a future at Rangers?
I would hope so. I mean, I think obviously Yanis had the long-term injury, so he was kind of struggling to break into the team. He's managed to get out on loan. I'm hoping that he probably won't have a long-term future at Rangers, but I'm hoping that we'll at least give him the chance, get him back, assess him in pre-season. And because there's no doubt about it, Yanis Hadji is a quality football player. You know, he's got the Hollywood pass. He's got, you know, goals in him. So I'm hoping that we could find a place for him. But I don't know what Philippe Clement, what a Philippe Clement team is going to look like. Obviously, he's going to need a couple of transfer windows. My concern about Philippe Clement is that when he picked the team on Saturday, he chose Lawrence over Cantwell, and that for me kind of sends a wee alarm bell ringing in my head that Philippe Clement teams will be, you know, I don't know, more reserved, more kind of, I dare say, you know, the guy's a football professional. I'm no, so what the fuck do I know? But that just that wee cautionary, you know, tone to fill his teams. Todd Cantwell for me is plays every week. You know, he's got we saw last night. He's got that. I think as Dean has mentioned, he's just got that the wee spark of creativity in him. You know, things will happen when he gets in the ball. And you saw last night that as soon as we got our nose in front, you know, we were moving the ball up the pitch in 3 passes. It all became effortless. You know, one touch triangle movements. You know, when Dowell came on, you know, and was getting involved in, you know, we won 5-2, and we should have scored maybe a few more, because the football towards the end of the game, you know, the last 20 minutes we were excellent. And you're wondering why did we not do that in the first 20 minutes and save us all the heartache? But you know, clearly they got a rush of confidence by this point, and nothing was beyond them. So I just wonder why it took so long to get to that stage. But as I said, I mean, Yanis Hadji, is he a Philippe Clement type player? Probably not. If Todd Cantwell isn't, then I don't think Yanis Hadji will be.
Dean, you get any thoughts on Hadji? Lawrence, Cantwell, just the 10 position, kind of in off your head?
I'm a massive Hadji fanboy. I mean, I never wanted him to go on loan, but the best thing for his career because he had no future under Michael Beale. So I think he's went abroad, he went to Spain, and it's been a bit hit and miss for him. As Kieran just said there, he played really well against Madrid, and that's been, all around Europe apparently. So obviously playing against Real Madrid is no easy thing. But in terms of how we are going forward as a footballing team, I think there's been a few people mention, which I would be kind of inclined to think that, a possibility that we are maybe not a team that can play with a number 10 going forward. And playing maybe against, you're playing a 10 against Celtic. Is Hadji going to be that player to stick on Callum McGregor? I'm just using that as an example because that's essentially what the number 10 needs to do for Rangers. I love Hadji to bits, I really do. I think he's a phenomenal football player. As Davey just said, the Hollywood pass, it's just breathtaking, his ability. But in the SPL, is that league really for him anymore, especially after his injury, things like that? Got to think, you've got to put those things into perspective. I'd love him to stay, but I don't know what way Clement's going to be going, what type of player he's going to want to have. If we're going to be playing with a 10, we're going to need somebody that's a lot more mobile, somebody that's a lot more athletic than him, but we're going to be needing somebody that's obviously going to be able to create and score and things like that. And Hadji's probably, I think for me as well, maybe lost a yard of pace after his injury. He, from what I've watched him in Spain, it's a lot slower. He still doesn't even look quick in that league sometimes. So you've got to have a bit of pace and stuff in Scotland, or you get found out. It's because it's that fast paced a game here. So I'd love Hadji to play and be in our team, but again I'm stuck between rock and a hard place because I don't even know if maybe Clement's going to go with a number 10 and maybe we'll play with Hadji in a different role. That's obviously a possibility. I think he played as an 8 under Gerrard a few times and did all right, but I think he wants to play as a 10, and I don't know if he'd be able to do that with us, to be quite honest with you.
I think it's pretty much a 50-50 whether Yanis Hadji comes back and is a part of Philip Clement's team or no. I would like to see it, but he is one of our sellable assets coming into this summer, and Rangers need money, so we'll need to wait and see how all that kind of pans out. William, I'm going to come back to you. Obviously, midway through second half, Rangers have went 3-1 up. Robbie Fraser and Paul McKinnon come on towards the end of the match. Just want to touch up on it with you. How do you feel the two young boys done in terms of along with Leon King? We've touched up on McCausland. How do you think they kind of represented themselves? I don't think they've done themselves any harm at all.
Well, I think for Robbie, it's been a long time coming. He's obviously been on the bench a few times and hasn't come on in the cup, and then the last game of the season against Hearts previously, which I think he was really hard done by in both occasions not to come on, because memory serves me right, in that Hearts game we brought on Jack Simpson, which was crazy, ahead of Robbie. And then in the cup game I think we brought on Paul and Seal and Archie Stevens ahead of Robbie. So yet again, probably a wee bit hard done to. So obviously delighted for Robbie last night. I've got to know Robbie and his family quite well over the years, and this was a kid that was a central midfield player up until about 4 years ago, and he was a really good central midfield player, by the way. It's not like he was a poor player and they shifted him back to left back. I think at the time Matthew Shields had left the club and we didn't really have a left back. So we kind of retrained Robbie as a left back, and he just grew and get better and stronger in that position. And then obviously he played there for the B team, became the B team captain, and it just felt like his time would come. But it just took a wee bit longer. But I thought he was really good when he came on last night. He showed no fear. Played the same way as Ridvan, kept looking to come inside, kept looking for the ball. Really unlucky not to get an assist. Dessers with a really good header, the goalie made a really good save. That would have probably just topped off the night for Robbie if he'd got that assist. Cole coming on at right back's a random one, because yet again Cole's a midfield player, so to come on and play right back and Tav having to get into centre back was a wee bit strange. But yet again I thought he did well. He didn't get You know, he didn't get beat up, he didn't get taken on, so that was good. Leon, yeah, again, another guy that's played very few minutes this season. Even B team games, he's been limited. He'll probably be disappointed, I think, maybe with the first goal, maybe that he doesn't react quickly. Second one, I think that just comes from poor communication. I think we're expecting the ball to come into the box to play a short free kick, and the boy gets a flick on. But I think in terms of the academy, it's good for Robbie. Whether he'll be here next season, that's open to debate. He's out of contract, so he obviously needs to make a decision. Does he re-sign, or does he look to go and play? My gut says he might go and play. Cole's got another year, but yet again, if they're going to make a lot of changes to that midfield, then Cole's probably got to be made to feel wanted if he wants to stay. And you've also got Bailey Rice there, who's another one that'll be looking to push on. Leon's probably been the toughest of the lot, really. You know, we also brought back Leon Balogun at a time where we thought that Leon King was going about for a bit longer because he'd get injured in pre-season. So we re-signed Leon Balogun. So yeah, it's probably been the toughest season for Leon King, just because he has been part of the first team squad all year, and we've basically not really seen him. Personally, I would play him again on Saturday. I would play Robbie on Saturday. I would play Cole on Saturday, because I think at this point we need to protect some of the players from injury against Hearts, and I think that's more important at this point, because we need to look ahead to the cup final, and that's how it is. And it might mean that one or two others get an opportunity, because obviously Paul Ncio was one of the extra players in the squad last night, so he might end up the bench along with maybe two or three others potentially at the weekend.
I'm noticing with Cole McKinnon, he's becoming a wee bit of a utility man, isn't he? He's coming on.
That's not really, yeah, but that's not really his game, do you know? I think he's one of those kids that'll just do whatever he's asked of, and that's Cole. This was a boy that was basically still playing schoolboy football at like 15, 16 before he signed for Rangers. So he's came a long way, Cole, a bit like Robbie. And that's why I get annoyed when I see some of the comments online, people saying, "Oh, but they're shit." It's like, you've got no idea what these boys have had to go through to get to this stage of their career. I mean, see that moment last night when I seen Robbie coming back from the touchline and he took off his bib and his jumper. I was feeling emotional, because I know how hard he's worked to have this moment. So when you see people online saying stuff like, "Oh, he's shit," that is a ridiculous thing to say. Some guy that's never played football at any level in his entire career telling a 21-year-old kid that he's shit, that he's been at Rangers for 15 years, that he's been through all the age groups, that he's worked so hard to get to that moment, to pull on that jersey for one time, to go out in the pitch, to get 30 minutes of football for the team that he loves and supports while his parents are up in the stand watching him, and you're shouting stuff at a young player like Ross McCausland and giving him abuse and stuff like that. Like, it's absolutely crazy. That's why I stay off Twitter a lot these days, because when I see some of the things the odd time I do pop on, I get annoyed. I can't believe some of the things that are said about academy players. People have got no idea what these kids go through, like, to get that one opportunity. I'm pretty sure Euphoria is in here, but they gave up a lot to just play one game for Rangers. That kid's got to do it last night. That kid loves to dream. Even if he never plays for Rangers again, he's done something that very few others have ever been capable of doing. Same with Cole. It was only 4 or 5 years ago Cole was basically playing schoolboy football, and now he's in the first team playing for Rangers. He's played in Europe. That's like, that to me is unbelievable. Same with Ross, a young kid playing in Northern Ireland, moved to Rangers when he was 16, moving away from home, moving away from his family. Now he's a Rangers first team player, and he's got a first team contract. He's played for his country, scored for Rangers. And yet you still see absolutely crazy comments online. I mean, I could go on forever about it. I do get annoyed with some of the things that people say, but that's why I'm trying to stay off of Twitter as much these days, because some of the stuff I see is just, it's shocking, to be honest.
Aye, it's just wild. And I've always been one for saying, like, throughout the season, if Rangers have been 3-0 up at home to Ross County, why bringing these boys in and getting them some minutes, getting them some game management teaching them, putting Leon King in next to Goldson, let them speak them through a match, how you see it out, etc., etc. I think there's definitely ways in the pathway that can be improved, and I was quite happy to come on in his presser yesterday saying that, you know, apart from when there's kind of tactical training, he's got some youth boys up training with the first team. And that's good in itself. That's good in itself that he's come in and seen that and made that change.
Mate, you look at what happened to Leon. You look at what happened to Leon King. It was a sink or swim moment, wasn't it? Right. We basically threw him into 6 Champions League games. This kid barely. Aye, and this, like, people can't understand it. This kid literally rolled up at Anfield against one of the best teams in the world, with guys like Salah up front and stuff like that, and we throw a young kid in there at centre half. I mean, it was bonkers. And then we finished off the campaign playing a central midfield player next to him. Do you know when people wonder why maybe he'd a bit of a tough time after that? I mean, it's crazy. Like, people don't seem to understand, like, the step up that these players have to make it still a huge step from the academy to the first team. And I think people just need to have a wee bit more patience at times and just get behind the guys. Because see, all you'll do is you'll just crush their confidence if you continually get in the back and make comments. Because to me, that's not going to benefit any young player that's playing for Rangers.
Aye, definitely. Davey, what's your thoughts? Have you getting you want to speak to William about?
Well, my cautionary note would be that, you know, so these guys pretty much know the script when they sign for Rangers, and breaking into the first team is going to be a tough gig. Ibrox can be an absolute cesspit at times. You know, we saw it last night when did he score the second goal and people walk out? You know, so there's the attitude of some of the Rangers support. That's just what's going to be, and this is going to be the judge and the jury when they step out and play for the first team. I thought Robbie Fraser was superb last night. I mean, I've never seen that boy play. I mean, but certainly see the commitment that he put on, the energy and enthusiasm he brought to that team last night, absolutely refreshing. And I would think, you know, see if Ridvan's not fit for the cup final, and it was a choice between Borna Barisic or Robbie Fraser. I'm going with Robbie Fraser, because he is the future. Borna's, you know, what do we get from Borna that we couldn't get from that boy? And it was, and you saw the injection of energy that they brought to that team last night. I thought the last 20 minutes we just got better and better, and then the last 20 minutes, the one touch football we were playing was a joy to see. It's what has this been? Because as I said, we were going up the pitch with 3 passes. And the pace and energy we were playing with was absolutely fantastic, and we ended up seeing something we never thought we'd see with Scott Wright scoring 2 goals. You know, so I mean, it was phenomenal. I think we could have scored more, but I mean, in terms of Cole McKinnon and things like that, these guys, they understand. They know they're not stupid, so they know that when they're going into the lines, then when they pull on that first team that shirt and they're out there. And it can be a hostile environment. There's so they either sink or swim. Obviously, the transition from you know, B team or youth team to the first team can be managed. And as we saw with Ross McCausland, you know, Ross have ended up getting his opportunity through injury. So sometimes, you know, you achieve greatness and sometimes it's thrust upon you. So for Ross McCausland, he ended up in there because we'd run out of options. And Ross, God bless him, has taken that chance and he's made a contribution, hasn't looked out of place in the first team. I think obviously with the injuries, you know, Sima, Matondo, you know, Cortez and all that, he's going to have some stiff competition to get in the team. But that's what we all want as Rangers fans. We do want competition to get in that team, so that the motivation is there, that when you get in that team, you take your chance, you play to a level that keeps you in that team. And I think we should see that across the squad, you know, and certainly from the young boys we saw last night. I mean, I would have. I think we need to take the view that sometimes, you know, when we just go with experienced players and put them in. Borna Barisic. I mean, obviously Borna's now gone; he's past tense. But I think there's a Philip come on, and we've seen it with other managers. They're very risk averse. Their job is ultimately on the line. So why would they take, as they would see, unnecessary risks? And I think it's actually it's incumbent upon them in the position that they're in to give youth a chance, because we've got an academy there. These guys, for this whole thing to work, they have to see a pathway from the academy to the first team. If that's not there, then they're battering their head off a brick wall. And I think the manager has to be brave sometimes. And I think sometimes they shirk that responsibility to bring youth to the first team. And certainly from what I saw last night with the boys that they brought on, we've got some talent there, and I think we should utilise more of them.
I definitely, mate. I've got to agree with you. It brings me on to my next question for Dean. Dean, me and you are in a Rangers Journal chat 24/7, banging the drum to get Scottish boys joining up for a squad, right? And Davy's brought up a very good point here about Borna Barisic coming in for Ridvan and Dujon Sterling being shifted to left back, when clearly Lundstrom could have been dropped and Sterling could have been in centre mid and stuff like that. There could have been a wee bit of jiggery pokery. Why, in your opinion, is guys like Robbie Fraser not coming in as second choice left back now? I only say that because I think under Gio, right? See, when Gio converts Calvin Bassett to a centre back, I'm watching the first couple of matches and I'm thinking, what's Gio thinking here? What's he thinking? Because Bassett was like a rabbit caught in headlights. He was hopeless, absolutely hopeless. And then we end up selling him for near a fee of 25 million because he's an absolute monster on the way to Europa League final. So what I'm trying to say is that proved to me these boys need first team fit back to be able to come in, create an impression, develop their game. But we're Rangers at the end of the day and we've got standards. But do you think there's a fine line between bringing Robbie Fraser in at left back, for example, instead of Borna that could have happened, say, 6 games ago?
Aye. As David just said, the manager's job's on the line. So it's a tough decision for the manager to take when you're all already in a job and managing Rangers that's extreme pressure daily. So you're scrutinised for every decision that you make. If that's getting boys for the B team to train with the first team even before they're even on the bench, do you know? As William will obviously, be able to back me up on that. That's even at that stage, there's pressure on the manager. There's pressure on the manager to actually include them in the first team squad. Then to actually bring them on, and the fact that there's obviously talented players there, and there's such a gap between the levels of the B team and the first team. So a lot of things to take into consideration. The levels of football that the B team are playing, and obviously not being of great level and things like that. And so as all those things to take into consideration. But in terms of players, in my opinion, if you can, if you're good at playing football and you're playing for, the Rangers B team, there has to be a clear path for the players. And I think somebody made a comment in the chat the other day about young Scottish players being Rangers fans and about maybe having an option to sign for Rangers as a youth, but then they look across, that young boy, 16 years old, coming on for Motherwell, we see it all over Scotland, young players that are 16, 17, 18, playing for teams in the SPL, then coming on to be regular starters, and then turning out they're getting moves away from, obviously players that have, even went to Italy, Josh Doig, the boy that was at Hearts, the left back at Hearts, what was his name again?
Aaron Hickey,
another one. And obviously Lewis Ferguson, a player that we decided not to sign for whatever reason. The point I'm making is players, young boys, are going to be seeing that they've got opportunities at other clubs to go and get first team football. So we need to be shown that we're going to be doing that. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is if the manager then does take a gamble on them. And if the young players that are playing, if they can actually show that energy, like what David just touched on, like Robbie Fraser did, like Cole McKinnon did, that energy, that desire, that wanting to play, and obviously Ross McCausland grabbing it by the scruff of the neck and, staking a claim, then I'm all for it. We need Scottish players in the team, as you say. We bang that drum. Scottish identity needs to be there. So Clermont needs to be he needs to be brave enough to believe in the players, and the players need to believe in themselves. And as Davey said about fans leaving at half time when it went 2-1 down, and that reflection of the players. And I mean, you'd be thinking to yourself, my God, if I go on and I fuck up, excuse my language, then they're all going to be at me and blah, 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 blah. Do you know, there's all the knock-on effect that does, but then the fans maybe some fans have just had enough, and they're walking out because the team's let them down again. So, you know, that's a different mixed response. But the point I'm making is young players need to show the fans have faith in them, and if they're going to be getting opportunities, we need to back them. I mean, they can have one bad game. So what every player on the planet, the best of the best, I've watched many football matches, and the best of the best have had bad games. So it's not just young lads, but we need to, as a fan base, give them all the backing we can, and give Clermont all the backing we can, because at the end of the day, it's the fans that are the ones that they need to please. It's, you know, our support keep them in a job, so to speak. So Clermont needs to believe in himself, and given his track record of previous teams, suggests to me that, you know, he is going to do it, and that his words pretty much, you know, what he said in his press conference was good enough for me to believe in him, that he's going to give the players the chance if they're, you know, if they're willing to take it.
I definitely. There's no one point I can't disagree with you. Well, just before we wrap up, what changes can you see anything that Clermont's maybe implementing between the youth pathway? Obviously, it wants the young boys to learn a wee bit more off the ball. Going by what I've read, that seems to be the kind of the middle ground of it. Do you think there's going to be any changes in the youth pathway over the summer? And what are you expecting for Hearts on at the weekend?
Yeah, I think we will see changes at the academy. Also, Zeb's obviously basically left already, so you might even see some further staff members moving on this summer. It'll be interesting to see who they put in charge of the academy now, because we're probably at a bit of a crossroads in terms of the B team, because a lot of the members of this year's B team is going to move on, I would imagine, this summer. So we're going to be a younger B team next year. But yeah, again, are we going to recruit? I mean, there's a bit of chatter that we're going to be recruiting some players this summer. So that'll be interesting to see if we get the players that we're going for, because there's one or two really talented young players in Scotland that I think Rangers are working hard to get. But yeah, again, I see the other side of it, and I can understand why some of these young players might want to stay at the clubs they're already at, because they might get a chance in the first team sooner. In terms of Hearts, I think it just makes sense to rest and recuperate players. I think there's a real chance that Robin Fraser starts. I think there's a real chance that Cole McKinnon starts. I think there's a good chance when you look at the bench. I don't think Alex Lowry's capable of playing any more than maybe 20 minutes. You know, he's only played that 130-minute salvo in the B team game. I mean, other players that could move up, obviously, if Lovelace was fit, he would play. If Bailey Rice was fit, I would imagine he would have an opportunity to play. And I think these are the kind of things that we should see on Saturday. I don't think we should be taking any unnecessary risks with guys like Diamande, with guys like Cantwell, even Dessers. I mean, you could argue that Dessers probably shouldn't be starting, just purely for the outlook that if he gets an injury, we literally have nobody to replace him. And it might be time for Jack Butland to get a break. Do you know, because it could be one of those ones where Hearts are kind of one-on-one with the goalie, and the goalie fills him outside the box and gets a straight red card and potentially misses the cup final. So I don't think the manager will take any risks. I think in his mind we'll see possibly 7, 8, 9 changes from the team that played last night, because I think now the mentality's got to be that all eyes are on the cup final, because that's what we've got left to play for, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see the lineup on Saturday. But I do expect at least one or two of those boys that come off the bench to start. I really do. I don't see the point in risking Ridvan. I just don't think it's worth the risk. And I don't think we'll see Borna starting the game against Hearts or the cup final. So I think that probably tells you enough.
Aye, definitely. I think he's two of the ground last night. After the game was finished, it kind of tells you everything you need to know.
I think it's clear. Yeah, I think it is clear that some players now know that they're not going to be here next season. Whether that's been known prior to last night or whether what happened at the weekend has made the manager kind of sit and think, well, there's no point waiting now until after that game. We'll just start the procedure now. You know, plus we're not going to renew your contract. You're going to be free to go. We're going to put you up for sale in the summer. And maybe that was some of the reactions that we spoke about on the pod tonight. Maybe some players already know what their future is at Rangers. And last night was a bit of a swan song for some of them. And it might mean that come the cup final, some of those players don't play either.
No, definitely. Davey, would you be happy seeing some youth starting a weekend? And how do you think the game's going to go?
I would be quite happy to see our youth start at the weekend. I would also be quite happy to see our youth start in the Scottish Cup final. Because, I mean, what are we going to do? Go back and then have another crack at them? You know, because the last two Old Firm games that Philip Clement has gone on, we've ended up 2-0 down before we eventually realised, hold on a minute, we're in a game here. So Philip Clement has to take risks. If he's going to just go with the same old at Hampden, then we're going to get exactly the same result. So I think he needs to kind of revamp and have a wee look at and maybe be a bit braver and mixing it up, because the way his approach to we've 1 point out of 12 in the league we've had from them. So in four failed attempts, we're now going to go in for a fifth attempt. And if we're just going to protect the players so that they can, they're fresh, and to hell with that. I mean, we need to find another way. We need another strategy. We need to mix it up, So Sterling in midfield, we're going to go with Lundstrom. Lundstrom's last game for Rangers? Absolutely not. I'd be going for guys who are a Rangers future, and I'd even write it off, to be honest. As long as we don't get crushed, then I mean, like with 2 visits to Parkhead this season, could it be any worse than that? Really, so I think it's time we shook it up a wee bit. The brand manager needs to be brave in terms of who's going to put in defence. I'm sure we'll be back to kind of the usual suspects, but I don't want to see Borna Barisic. Ridvan, I think I could accept, but I think he may be a casualty in the summer. I think he may be transferred. I think kind of pushing in an open door to push in Ridvan. I think he'd be quite happy to go back to Turkey or wherever he wants to go. I don't see. I think he almost left in the January transfer window. So if we were to, if Philip Clement goes with youth both against Hearts on Saturday and in the cup final, I wouldn't be holding it against him, because in the last two Old Firm games, Philip Clement obviously wasn't here for the first one under Beale, which was why Beale gets sacked. But in the last 3 attempts, do we need a rerun of that? No, absolutely no. I think if I'll go out and have a go in the cup final, and we go from the first whistle. We don't wait until we're 2-0 down. So I want to see a change of tactic from Philip Clement.
Definitely, something needs to change. Dino, what's your thoughts getting youth a bash at the weekend and then giving up for the cup final? Can any of these boys make a good enough impression to maybe even get a start, like David Pollock's saying?
Aye, they can. I mean, any player that plays on Saturday can give the manager a headache. And at the end of the day, I think, to maybe caveat what Davey said there, we've got to look forward. Bringing these players in that have failed multiple times is kind of going backwards, isn't it? We've got to look to next season, and if going to be giving youth a chance, what's the point in saying we're going to give youth a chance if the game against Hearts? I mean, give them a chance, see what happens. I mean, league's decided it's not going to make any difference to anything if we do get beat by Hearts by playing the youngsters. So, and I mean, in regards to Barisic, he's played his last game for Rangers, and maybe I think Ridvan maybe get another run out, maybe a half each, maybe with Robbie Fraser, because you want Ridvan to be, relatively fit for the final. Because I would want him to start the final, and I mean, there's a potential extra time as well, and so if both players can, take half the burden of playing football. I'm just obviously being incredibly optimistic here that it's even going to get to extra time if we can do well against Celtic. But at the weekend, start the youngsters. Half of these players are on their way out. The youngsters maybe potentially aren't. So, give them a shot. Why not? And then if they can give the manager a headache and then play in the final. I mean, like people keep saying personnel, change formation. So I guess it's the ultimate position for Clement to be in, to be able to make changes between, for the final. We've been found out by Celtic every time we've played with that formation. I mean, it's frustrating as a fan to watch it and to have the same end result. So there has to be changes made, and if we want to be, finishing the season on a high, winning the Scottish Cup's an absolute must, and having young blood in and players that are no fear of anything, that's when players can be at their most dangerous. So I'm all for that, and if he does go with that, and I'm confident that we could do well against Hearts playing youngsters. Why not?
Aye, definitely, mate. Need to agree. I hope that some of them can come in and impress the manager enough to let them start at a cup final, because as David says, it would be a bit different. It would change things up a wee bit. Give Celtic something. Anyway, we'll just give in to thank everybody for turning up. Willie, thanks for coming on, mate. It's really appreciated. It's always good talking football with you.
Cheers, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
No bother. Cheers. David, thank you again for coming on, mate. It's much appreciated.
No problem, Scott. Thank you. It's always good to chat and explore the options and chat about matters Rangers. Because it's we've all got our opinion. I mean, and I certainly do. I mean, some of it's completely nuts, right enough, but it's not my job that's on the line, so it's easy for me to sit here and.
Aye, definitely, mate. Definitely. You can find Davey over at Gallant Few, by the way, if you want some Mary's, some worries opinions. Aye. Well, I'm calling them opinions, Davey. I think you've got good opinions. Dean, thanks for coming on again, mates. I appreciate it, pal.
Aye, and anytime I can get on, I'm all for it, buddy. So it's always a pleasure and a privilege talking all things Rangers, mate. And please like, share and subscribe, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and that goes to everybody that tunes in. Thank you.
Right, guys, thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe the video. We will be back on Friday night to preview the Hearts game. Our predicted lineup should be a good laugh for that one. So we're back Friday night at 7:30. And always remember, every night is Rangers Journal night.